All right, so we've talked about textbooks, we've talked about classical education, Charlotte Mason, unit studies. Now, unschooling. Ooh, okay. Unschooling gets a bad rap. In actuality, this is a method of education. So if someone is unschooling and they're neglecting their kids and not doing anything, that's not really unschooling. That's not educating your kids. And okay, if you want your kids to get into Harvard, obviously you're not going to unschool them. I do know of one homeschool kid who was unschooled who got into Harvard. So how is unschooling done right? I was intrigued, and actually I did a ton of research recently because I'm fascinated by unschooling, especially delight-directed unschooling. And I actually do that in the summers. I do delight-directed unschooling, okay? So this is how it works for real, is that the kid is driven by wanting to learn something, okay? And then they research about that, or they take in information about that, and they process that information. They have time to do it because they've thrown out other methods. And so like a kid could possibly build a house, do plans, learn math that way. Yeah, math. Okay, see, this is one of my problems with unschooling, is that math especially, now I'm sure there's some unschoolers who do math, and then they do delight directed for other stuff, and that's fine. If you do no math, I can't, how can you educate? That is not an educated child. I'm sorry. If they can't do, the reading, writing, and math, if they're illiterate, See, unschooling at its worst, you'd think they'd be illiterate. It takes a lot of work to teach your kid to read or teach your kid to multiply. They have to memorize it. It's not all fun, no. In fact, kids are born lazy. You have to try to give them oomph to actually do something. And there's some things in life that you have to do even when you don't feel like doing it. And they better learn when they're a kid. I know some adults that don't know that, and they're not fun to be around. Yeah. So let's see what I wrote here. Okay, so it's unstructured and informal. That's what makes it kind of fun, You surround the child with a rich environment of learning opportunities. Yes. Okay. So the best unschooled kids are surrounded by something that's set up for them to want to learn. Okay. So it's like, for example, Montessori. If your kids are really small. I used to set up little learning stations and things like that, and they just went over it in their free time. They're looking and doing all things, So the delight aspect of it causes them to internalize those things in a way that isn't just so drudgery like school normally is in the school system. So yes, okay. So a rich environment. Another thing, I would think, okay, I'm just throwing that out there, that if you were like a world traveler or something, that unschooling might work. Because if they're fascinated about writing about different things or snapping pictures and doing, some type of notebook about it, and you're processing it all and you're learning all the different things and have a math program in place, then I could see how you could actually have an education with that and still, have a robust education. You do need to know, science and some history and stuff like that. A lot of kids in the schools don't know where the countries are located. They're half illiterate. It's all churning out mediocrity. So do we want to follow that? Not really. You want to break out from that or add to it or make it better than it is. Okay, so what else did I say? Pros, natural curiosity of the child is not squashed. Yes, so like if you, well, in the schools, for example, where you have, 6 different class periods or whatever, and, they're forced to learn all these different things, and, they can't stand school. That's squashing their curiosity so that the things that they were curious about, they no longer want to learn about it, And part of that is that they've tuned out to learning. And that's another thing about unschooling. I was reading all of these like blog posts and stuff about unschooling recently, and there was one kid, for example, that was autistic that was pulled out of public school, and he just needed to decompress because it was horrible in school. He was made fun of this and that and wasn't processing properly and everything. And after 1 year of decompressing and learning what he wanted to learn, he was finally on track and able to make progress in math and stuff like that. So I could see there could be situations where you might want to use unschooling, possibly. Let's see, I already talked about laziness. I also think personally that it leads to weakness in character because they do only what they feel like doing. And I alluded to that a little bit earlier. So that's just my own personal opinion about that. Okay, so that's unschooling.